The Search for the Copper Scroll. Winner reveal! What's this chapter going to be about? I mean, chapter 2, of course. And it's... As Aliyah and Mehedi approach the pillar, it sinks into the ground, taking the scrolls with it. Let's read then. Chapter 2, City of the Dead. Aliyah took off her shawl and, tying it up into a sling, placed the parchment scrolls carefully inside it. "I'll get the copper scroll and the ones on the pillar," said Mehedi. He picked his way through the shards of broken pottery. The moment he leaned against the pillar, he felt the ground tremble. Dust rose up in a great cloud, stinging his eyes. He barely had time to cough when something sprang up around him, like a poacher's net trapping a wild bird. It was a ring of bleached antlers with pointed, knife-sharp tips. The ground shook again, and the pillar started to sink into a hole, taking the scrolls with it. Mehedi could feel himself sinking too. It was like he'd stepped in quicksand. "Mehedi!" Aliyah's arm shot through the bars of the antler cage, grabbing her brother's hand. "For goodness sake, don't let go!" Mehedi could see his sister's face turn red with the effort of holding on to him. He felt the terrible strain on his own wrist. He wanted to scream in agony, but he stopped himself. A boy should not show weakness in front of his sister. Daring to look down, he tried to see where the pillar was, but he couldn't make out anything through the whirling dust. His mind reeling, he wondered where he would land if he slipped out of Aliyah's grip. The idea that he might die gave him the courage he needed. Grabbing an antler with his free hand, he asked Aliyah to let go of the other hand. She did, and she grasped at a second antler. It was so wide and smooth with age, he could barely get a grip on it. He could feel it slipping out of his grasp. "Move around to these two," said Aliyah, who had guessed right away what he was doing. "They are narrower." Mehedi swung from one antler to another until he was gripping the ones Aliyah had pointed out. Feeling more secure, he swung his legs up so that his toes were touching the antlers. Any child of the desert is used to scaling smooth cliffs in search of birds' eggs. Mehedi was no different. He worked his feet and hands up to reach the top of the antlers. Careful not to hurt himself on the sharp points, he backflipped and landed safely on the ground outside the cage. "Well done," said Aliyah, now that Mehedi was out of danger. She was shaking all over. "Let's get out of here." "Good idea." Mehedi grabbed Fierce Ali by the collar, and they ran out into the fading sunshine. Aliyah's home was a cave with a big front door painted a bright blue. It had a sandy floor covered in threadbare carpets, large enough to house several related families. It was divided into small rooms with curtains. There was a clay oven outside for baking bread and a pen for the goats. As Aliyah and Mehedi led the goats towards the cave, they spotted a crowd outside the door. A man with a sports jacket over his robe was getting onto his camel. Aliyah recognized him at once. "The doctor!" She broke into a run. "Father! Mother! What happened?" "It's your grandmother," said Mother. "She had another fall." "A bad one this time," added her father. "She's broken her arm. She might need to go into hospital." Aliyah knew what that meant. They would have to sell Fierce Ali. She shot Mehedi a look. "We'll sell the parchment scrolls," said Aliyah. "Like you said, they might be worth a small fortune, and we're going to need a lot of money to pay grandmother's hospital bill." She and Mehedi were sitting outside the cave. "We could take them to your friend, the English girl." "I don't know she'd consider me a friend," said Aliyah. "She just bought a straw basket from me at the market." "Did she tell you her name?" asked Mehedi. "Yes, her name is Sarah." "Telling someone your name makes them a friend," concluded Mehedi. The next morning they walked into town. Despite the heat, it was the middle of winter. There were few tourists around. Aliyah knew where the girl was staying, the Royal Ascot Hotel on Batty Street. Aliyah felt scruffy just looking at the hotel guests in their smart clothes coming through the hotel's revolving door. A doorman was standing outside, his eyes shielded against the sun in aviator sunglasses. "No desert children allowed in the hotel," he barked. "But we're here to see a friend," said Mehedi. "Shoo!" growled the doorman. "You'll get me into trouble." "But," said Aliyah. She was interrupted by someone knocking on the glass pane next to the door. Sarah was waving from the breakfast room. She was big-boned with a freckly face and hair pulled tight under a headband. Her intelligent eyes gleamed through a pair of horn-rimmed glasses. A camera hung on a leather strap around her neck. She came around to the door. "Rafi, what's the matter?" "We came to see you, miss," said Aliyah. "It's terribly important." "But you know the rules," replied Rafi. "This is a whites-only establishment." "Never mind the rules," said Sarah with a gracious smile. "My dad and I are paying guests, and it's only fair we can entertain whomever we chose." "Thank you, Rafi. I think we'll go up to my suite." Sitting in a room full of artifacts, Aliyah and Mehedi told Sarah about the cave and the scrolls. Mehedi explained about the pillar sinking into the ground. They told her about their grandmother having a fall and showed her the scrolls. "I regret these parchment scrolls are too damaged to be much value," said Sarah. "But your copper scroll should be better preserved. And the scrolls must be important, or no one would take the trouble to protect them with a booby trap. From your description of the paintings on the wall, I can hazard a guess where the pillar went when it sank." "Where?" asked Aliyah. "Down into a necropolis," replied Sarah. "An underground cemetery, cities of the dead. The ancients used to call them. My guess is this one is an early Christian necropolis." She pointed to a map of the area pinned to the wall. "I studied it carefully, and I know where the necropolis is. Let's go down there this afternoon and search for your copper scroll." Aliyah stood at the mouth of a dark cave, waiting for her eyes to adjust. The cliffs towered above her like the walls of a mighty city. Aliyah had never ventured into this part of the desert before, and it frightened her. There was something spooky about it. No birds wheeled overhead. No scrubby bushes even seemed to grow in the shingle. "Hurry up," said Mehedi as Sarah switched on a large torch. They entered a tunnel that turned and twisted inside the cliffs. After what seemed like hours, but in fact was less than one, they entered a cave. As Sarah shone her torch around, she could see the walls were decorated with pictures of people, children, adults, and old people with white hair. There were thousands of them, all staring back at Aliyah with wide, sad eyes. The dead are buried in the walls behind those pictures, Sarah murmured. Aliyah stirred some more. She had expected the necropolis to be scary, but there was an incredible sense of peace, as if the dead were only sleeping, waiting to rise again one day. And you reckon the cave where we found the scrolls is right above us? Sarah nodded. I don't know why, but the two places are connected, aren't they? The cave above has pictures of the dead rising, and this is a cemetery. I have no idea what's written on the copper scroll, but I'll bet my last ice bun it's instructions for some sort of ritual. A vitally important ritual whose secrets must be protected at all costs. And where did the scrolls fall to? Wondered Mehedi. Someone in here, obviously, replied Sarah. It's a mystery, I know, and we're going to solve it. I don't think you will. Aliyah, Mehedi, and Sarah turned at once to see a man standing behind them. He had a shock of blonde hair and whip in his hand. Two other men stood on either side of him, both in desert robes. Mehedi recognized them at once. They were two of the hunters he'd seen the day before. You are trespassing, said the man with blonde hair. This is private land, my property. Did you not see the signs outside? This is an area of sensitive archaeological importance, snapped back Sarah immediately. It's everyone's property. You'll find you're wrong, miss, sneered the man with the blonde hair. I bought this property a few months ago. Aliyah looked from Mehedi to Sarah. I think we should do as the man says and leave. I'm afraid it's too late for that, said the blonde. I overheard your conversation and there's no way I'm going to let you find that scroll before me. It's why I bought the land. He turned to the men on either side of him and clicked his fingers. Tie them up. Voting time. What happens next? Vote A. The two men take the children prisoner. Vote B. Mehedi, Aliyah, and Sarah all run in different directions and hide. Vote C. Someone arrives in the nick of time and saves the children. The most popular selection and what the next chapter is going to be about will be revealed in the video of the next chapter. Bye-bye.